A woman in Texas spent 4 years and almost $600 trying to make her front porch smell like a flower shop. Fancy soil, expensive fertilizer, a different plant every single spring. Nothing worked. Then, by accident, she planted one $5 perennial in a plastic pot she found at a yard sale and forgot about it. She didn't water it for a week, she didn't feed it. 6 weeks later, her mail carrier started leaving notes on her door asking what that smell was. Here's the myth nobody wants to admit. The most fragrant flowers in the world are usually not the ones getting babied in glossy gardening magazines. The plants that smell the strongest, the longest, and the most consistently are almost always the toughest, laziest, most neglect-tolerant perennials you can put in a pot. Most people are doing the exact opposite of what actually works, and it's costing them money, time, and a porch that smells like nothing. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which ones actually deliver. In this video, I'm breaking down 11 fragrant perennial flowers that thrive in pots with almost zero effort, no daily watering, no fussy soil, no greenhouse required. I'm going deep on each one, where it grows best, how to keep it alive for years instead of months, and the one mistake that kills it faster than anything else. And stick around for number 9. It's a plant so powerfully fragrant that some homeowners associations have actually tried to get it banned from front yards. I'll tell you exactly why and how to grow it responsibly so your neighbors love you instead of reporting you. Before we get into the list, quick heads up. I add new low-effort, high-impact plant guides to this channel almost every week. And if you don't subscribe now, the algorithm is genuinely not going to show you the next one. I say that because a lot of you have told me in the comments that you missed my drought-proof pots video and only found it 3 months later after your plants already died. Don't let that happen again. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's get into it. Starting with the plant that started this whole obsession for me. Item 1. Lavender, the one everyone gets wrong. Lavender is the flower most people think of first when they picture a fragrant garden. But here's the twist. Most people kill it within a year because they treat it like a normal flower. Lavender is a Mediterranean plant. It evolved on rocky, sun-baked hillsides with almost no water and terrible soil. When you plant it in rich potting mix and water it like a petunia, you are slowly drowning its roots, and it will rot from the inside out before it ever blooms properly. The trick that changes everything is using a pot with excellent drainage. Terracotta is ideal because it wicks moisture away from the roots, and mixing in coarse sand or perlite at a ratio of about 1 part sand to 3 parts standard potting soil. Water it deeply, then let it go completely dry for several days before watering again. Lavender actually blooms more fragrantly when it's slightly stressed for water, which is the opposite of almost every other flowering plant. The surprising fact most people don't know: lavender oil concentration is highest in the late morning, right after the dew has evaporated, before the afternoon heat hits. Commercial lavender farms in France time their harvests around this exact window because cutting even 2 hours later can reduce the fragrance yield by nearly a third. But if you think ignoring your plant is the secret to fragrance, wait until you hear about the flower at number 2, because this one actually punishes you for paying it too much attention in a completely different way. Item 2. Gardenia, the diva that isn't actually a diva. Gardenias have a reputation as the ultimate high-maintenance plant, and honestly, that reputation is mostly earned by people growing them in the wrong environment. In the ground, in the wrong soil pH, gardenias sulk, drop buds, and turn their leaves yellow. But in a pot where you completely control the soil, gardenias become dramatically easier, and the fragrance payoff is enormous. A single gardenia bloom can perfume an entire room. And unlike a lot of fragrant flowers, the scent holds even after the flower is cut. The secret with potted gardenias is acidic soil. They need a pH between 5.0 and 6.0, which is far more acidic than standard potting mix. Use a soil blended for azaleas or camellias, and feed with an acid-forming fertilizer every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season. Keep the pot somewhere that gets bright morning light but is protected from harsh afternoon sun, especially in hot southern southern states, where gardenias can scorch badly. Here's the fact almost nobody knows. Gardenia buds are extremely sensitive to being moved. If you rotate the pot, change its location, or even just turn it to face a different direction, the plant can drop its buds within 48 hours as a stress response. Once you find a spot your gardenia likes, the biggest favor you can do it is to simply leave it alone. That idea of leave it alone is about to come up again in a much bigger way, because the next flower on this list might be the single laziest fragrant plant that exists. Item 3. Dianthus, cottage pinks, the clove-scented perennial nobody talks about. Dianthus, often called cottage pinks or clove pinks, is one of the most underrated fragrant perennials in American gardening. Most people walk right past it at the garden center because the flowers look small and unassuming compared to roses or lavender. But get close and you'll notice something surprising: a warm, spicy scent almost identical to actual cloves. This is one of the oldest cultivated fragrant flowers in history, grown in European gardens for over 2,000 years, specifically for that spice-like aroma. In pots, Dianthus is almost impossible to kill. It tolerates poor soil, occasional drought, and even light frost, which makes it one of the few fragrant perennials that can survive outdoors year-round in far more USDA zones than people realize, as low as Zone 3 with the right cultivar. It prefers full sun and soil on the alkaline side, so if your topwater is naturally hard, that actually works in this plant's favor instead of against it. The surprising fact here, Dianthus flowers are edible, and their clove-like flavor has been used for centuries to flavor wine, syrups, and even early versions of vermouth. Most gardeners have no idea the flower sitting in their pot could be steeped into a syrup. Quick pause here. I want to ask you something directly. How many fragrant plants have you personally killed trying to get a nice-smelling porch or patio? Be honest in the comments. I genuinely want to know, because it tells me exactly what to cover in future videos. And if this list has already saved you from making a mistake you were about to make, that's exactly the reason to subscribe right now, because I release these low-effort plant guides specifically so you stop wasting money on plants that were never going to survive your setup in the first place. Item 4. Jasmine, the vine that turns a balcony into a perfume counter. Common jasmine, especially the variety known as Jasminum officinale, is one of the most intensely fragrant plants you can grow in a container, and it's far more perennial friendly in pots than most people assume, even in colder states. The trick is treating it as a plant that can live outdoors in summer and come inside, even into an unheated garage or basement for winter. Jasmine goes semi-dormant below about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which means it doesn't need bright light during that period, just protection from a hard freeze. Give jasmine something to climb. A small trellis or even a tomato cage works, and it will reward you with a flush of white star-shaped flowers that release their strongest scent in the evening, right around dusk. This is intentional on the plant's part. In its native range, jasmine is pollinated by moths, so it saves its strongest fragrance output for the hours when moths are active, which is exactly the time most people are relaxing outside after dinner. The fact most people don't know, a single jasmine plant can be pruned hard every year and will not only survive, but actually bloom more heavily the following season because flowers form on new growth. Most people are afraid to cut it back, when cutting it back is actually the secret to more blooms. But if you think evening fragrance is impressive, wait until number 9 on this list. That one doesn't just bloom at night, it can be smelled from almost a block away. Item 5. Peonies, the too much work myth busted. Peonies have a reputation for being finicky, in-ground-only plants that need years to establish. That reputation is outdated. Modern dwarf and Ito peony varieties are specifically bred for container growing, and once established, they are shockingly low-maintenance perennials that come back reliably every single spring for over a decade in the same pot. The one requirement peonies actually actually have is cold. They need a genuine winter chill period to form flower buds, so gardeners in the deep south sometimes struggle. But for the vast majority of the country, an unheated porch, garage, or simply leaving the pot outside through winter provides exactly the chill cycle the plant needs naturally. Use a large, deep pot, at least 18 inches, because peonies have substantial root systems, and once you plant one, avoid moving or dividing it. Peonies genuinely dislike being disturbed and can sulk for a full year or two after transplant. The surprising fact, peony fragrance actually varies enormously by variety, and it's not related to color the way most people assume. Some deep red peonies have almost no scent at all, while certain pale pink and white varieties, like Festiva maxima, are considered among the most fragrant flowers in the entire perennial world, closer to a rose crossed with citrus than anything else. Item 6. Sweet Woodruff, the shade-loving secret weapon. Almost every flower on this list wants full sun, which is a real problem if your patio, balcony, or porch is shaded. Sweet Woodruff solves that problem completely. It's a low, spreading perennial that actually prefers partial to full shade, making it one of the only genuinely fragrant options for gardeners who don't get much direct sunlight. Fresh, the plant has a mild green scent, but here's the twist. As the leaves dry, they release a much stronger, sweet, hay-like fragrance similar to vanilla, thanks to a natural compound called coumarin. In a pot, Sweet Woodruff spreads quickly to fill the container, creating a soft green carpet studded with tiny white star-shaped flowers in late spring. It needs consistent moisture, which is actually easier to maintain in shade since the soil doesn't dry out as fast, and it tolerates being ignored for long stretches better than almost anything else on this list. The fact that surprises people every time, Sweet Woodruff has been used for centuries in Germany to flavor a traditional May wine called Maiballe, and dried sprigs are still tucked into linen closets today as a natural moth repellent because moths hate the same coumarin scent that humans find pleasant. Let me ask you this. Out of the 6 flowers so far, which one are you most tempted to go buy this weekend? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I actually use your answers to decide what to cover in future videos. If you're finding this useful, this is the moment to hit that subscribe button, because the second half of this list gets even better, including a flower that's technically illegal to sell in one US state because of how aggressively it spreads its scent and its seeds. Item 7. Heliotrope, the flower that smells like dessert. Heliotrope has one of the strangest reputations in fragrant gardening. Almost nobody grows it, and almost everyone who smells it for the first time can't believe it's real. Its common nickname is cherry pie plant because the deep purple flower clusters genuinely smell like baked vanilla cherry pie. Sweet, warm, and slightly powdery. It's often grown as an annual in cold climates, but in pots, it behaves as a tender perennial that can be overwintered indoors on a bright windowsill, coming back year after year. Heliotrope wants full sun, consistent moisture, and rich soil, which makes it slightly more demanding than lavender or dianthus. But the trade-off is a fragrance so distinctive that Victorian perfumers built entire fragrance lines around it before synthetic vanilla existed. It was, at one point, one of the most valuable fragrance plants in the world, grown commercially in southern France specifically for perfume extraction. The surprising fact, despite smelling like dessert, heliotrope is mildly toxic if ingested, containing pyrrolizidine alkaloids that can affect the liver in large quantities. It's a perfect reminder that a flower's smell has nothing to do with whether it's safe to eat, something worth knowing if you have pets or small children investigating pots on your porch. Item 8. Patio Roses, smaller pot, same knockout scent. Most people assume roses need a full garden bed to thrive, but breeders have spent the last 2 decades developing miniature and patio rose varieties specifically for container life. Varieties like Fragrant Cloud or Sweet Chariot pack the same intense old-world rose fragrance into a plant that tops out around 2 to 3 feet tall, perfect for a pot on a small balcony or front step. The mistake almost everyone makes with potted roses is underfeeding them. Roses in containers use up nutrients far faster than roses in the ground because there's simply less soil volume to draw from. A slow-release rose fertilizer applied every 6 to 8 weeks during the growing season, combined with a container that has serious drainage holes, is the entire secret. Roses hate wet feet, and root rot is the single most common way container roses die. The fact that surprises most gardeners: rose fragrance is strongest on warm, humid mornings and weakest in cool, dry air, which is why the exact same rose can smell incredible on one day and almost scentless the next. It's not the plant changing, it's the weather changing how the fragrance molecules evaporate off the petals. Item 9. Night-Blooming Jasmine. The plant some neighborhoods tried to ban. This is the one I promised you. Night-blooming jasmine, scientifically Cestrum nocturnum, is arguably the single most fragrant plant on this entire list, and also the most controversial. During the day, it looks unremarkable, a plain green shrub with small pale flowers. But after sunset, it releases a scent so powerful and far-reaching that in parts of California and Florida, homeowners have filed formal noise and odor-style complaints, and some HOAs have added it to restricted plant lists because a single shrub can perfume an entire block on a still night. In a pot, night-blooming jasmine is genuinely low effort. It tolerates poor soil, irregular watering, and heat that would stress out most flowering plants. It thrives in USDA zones 9 through 11 outdoors and can be grown as a container plant that's brought inside during winter almost anywhere else. The fragrance is strongest on warm, humid, windless nights, which is exactly why it became a signature plant of Southern California courtyards long before anyone worried about complaints. The surprising fact almost nobody knows is night-blooming jasmine is a member of the nightshade family, the same family as tomatoes and potatoes, and every part of the plant except the fragrance is mildly toxic if eaten, especially the berries it produces after flowering. Grow it for the scent, but keep an eye on curious pets. Item 10. Freesia, the florist's secret that actually thrives in neglect. Freesia is the flower florists reach for when a bouquet needs to smell as good as it looks, but almost nobody realizes it grows beautifully from bulbs, called corms, directly in a pot, and it's one of the most forgiving, fragrant flowers you can plant. Freesia corms are planted in fall in warm climates or late winter in cold ones, and the plant does almost all the work itself, needing only well-draining soil and a sunny spot to produce sprays of trumpet-shaped, intensely sweet flowers in shades of white, yellow, pink, and purple. Because Freesia grows from a corm rather than needing constant root maintenance like a shrub, it's one of the true plant-it-and-forget-it options on this list. After blooming, the foliage dies back naturally, and the corm simply waits underground until the next growing season. You don't need to do anything except leave the pot alone and resist the urge to overwater dormant soil. The surprising fact, Freesia fragrance is so specific and complex that perfume chemists have identified over a dozen distinct aromatic compounds in a single bloom, which is part of why synthetic Freesia scent in candles and lotions almost never smells quite right. The real flower is genuinely difficult to replicate artificially. Item 11. Lily of the Valley. Tiny flowers, enormous fragrance. Closing out this list is a plant that proves size has nothing to do with fragrance strength. Lily of the Valley produces small, bell-shaped white flowers on short stems, often no taller than 8 inches, yet the scent is so concentrated that a single pot can perfume an entire entryway. It's one of the most cold-hardy perennials on this list, surviving winters down to USDA Zone 2, and it actually prefers shade or dappled light, making it a perfect companion for Sweet Woodruff if your growing space doesn't get much sun. In a pot, Lily of the Valley spreads through underground rhizomes to fill the container over a couple of seasons, and once established, it requires almost nothing from you. No fertilizing, no pruning, just consistent moisture and shade. It's genuinely one of the most self-sufficient perennials in this entire list. The surprising fact, and an important one, Lily of the Valley is highly toxic in ingested, including the water in a vase after cutting the flowers. It's been used historically in tiny, carefully measured medicinal doses for heart conditions before modern medicine, which tells you exactly how potent its chemistry is. Keep it away from pets and small children, and enjoy it strictly for that incredible fragrance. So here's the pattern running underneath every single flower on this list. The plants that smell the strongest are almost never the ones people fuss over the most. Lavender wants to be ignored. Dianthus wants poor soil. Sweet Woodruff and Lily of the Valley want shade and neglect. Even Night-Blooming Jasmine, one of the most powerful fragrances on earth, thrives specifically because nobody babies it. The real secret to a fragrant porch or patio was never about spending more money, buying more fertilizer, or watering more often. It was about matching the right, tough, forgiving perennial to the exact conditions you already have: sun or shade, hot or cold, humid or dry, and then getting out of the plant's way. That's it. That's the whole secret the fancy magazines don't tell you. If you want the exact potting mix recipe and container sizes I use for every single one of these 11 flowers, I've got a full follow-up video breaking that down step by step. It's coming very soon, and it's going to save you even more money on pots and soil than this video already has. Subscribe now so you don't miss it, because I promise you it drops before most of you expect it to. Thank you so much for watching this one all the way through. If you grew even one of these flowers because of this video, tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one, and I genuinely love seeing your porches and patios come alive. Until next time, keep it simple, keep it fragrant, and I'll see you in the next one.